the road. Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 205. Mindful Live 205. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. Greetings, Jumak KC Jumok KC over there on IG. We are streaming live on TikTok, on IG, and on YouTube. Wherever you are looking at this, make sure you hit that like button. Get the algorithm friendly with the live. Allow the algorithm to do some good things with the live. That really does help. As per usual, this live is brought to you by Mindful Education. Mindful with 2Ls_education. We have the Easter holiday is coming up. It's basically upon us already. If you are looking for some last minute learning pods, some last minute lessons, some last minute tutors, whatever you are looking for, we have that available in that education sphere over on Mindful Education. Go hit us up, message us wherever you can get in contact with us. Real News says how much money you paid for that mustache. Well, I mean, it's according to how you look at this, because Jumoke, thank you very much, Jumoke. It's according to how you look at this, because I mean, I didn't go to a store and purchase the mustache, but I did feed myself, and myself made the proteins that form into these wonderful whiskers. So I guess the price of food for myself would be how much money I paid for this mustache. Food. Good stuff. Yes, so this evening we're talking religion. We're talking religion and the state. Now, this has been in the national consciousness for some time now, as it were, because since the new commissioner came into her position in the police service, the new commissioner spoke about prayer and us needing prayer. We need prayer to work out this crime situation, and many people took her to task for that. Many people kind of dragged her through the mud, and I think some of that was unfair. To be honest, some of the insults she got from that was unfair. People made it seem like what she was suggesting was that we throw away the policing and only look to prayer to solve this. And I mean, as the police commissioner, that seems kind of pathetic. If you're talking about throwing away the policing, that's your job. You can't be talking about prayer needed to solve crime. You have to be talking about your work. So I can understand that. But the lady was talking about as a boost, as in everything with someone who is God-minded, who is religious. You're thinking that in everything, some prayer, would be of assistance. In everything you're doing, some prayer would be of assistance. I hear Tate them come out by. Yes, by Tate them come out by now. That the Romanian, but it's not only Romania, but some of those European countries have some strange laws. Yes, unknown. Yes, some of those European countries have some strange laws, because those men were in jail since the ending of last year, and they were never even charged of a crime. It's not like they were charged and they were waiting on the courts to decide whether they were found guilty. They were not even charged as yet. And the prosecutor was attempting to hold them for another 90 days, I think. I think you could ask for, is it 30, 60, or 90 days at a time? Some one of those, the factors of 3, of 30, some one of those you could ask for at a time. And they were just asking for more and more. It's like, we're holding you there until we build the case. That's some scary stuff. I think it's a good thing for justice that they're out. I mean, I'm not saying that they're innocent or anything like that. I do not know. But until you charge someone for a crime, having them in jail seems just not fair. Good night, Diamond Heart. Now, when you say Diamond Heart, what do you mean by that, Diamond Heart? Because diamond might be valuable to some, but probably the most known trait of diamond is its hardness. So are you saying your heart is hard? You're a hard-hearted person out there, Diamond Heart? What a bold stance. All right. Is she talking about cards? Let's get into some of these stories and see what the Prime Minister had to say originally. And the response: a failure of leadership, not religion. Secretary General, of the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, Vijay Maharaj, says a lack of proper leadership and not a lack of religion is the cause of the decline in society. In fact, he said religion was being used as a scapegoat and urged politicians to examine how their own behavior has contributed to society's moral deterioration. Maharaj made the comment as he noted Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's call for religious leaders to do more to influence parents, children, and society. Rowley made the call on Tuesday when, during the handing over ceremony for the refurbished Hayes Court, he lamented that society's behavior had been rapidly deteriorating. The PM attributed this to the presence of religion not being as strong as it used to be. Speaking with the Express yesterday, Maharaj said he felt like religion was being used as a scapegoat. He called on Rowley to examine his own contribution to the decline in society, saying the leaders of the country have not been setting a proper example for the youth. He spoke about their behavior in Parliament, both the government and the opposition, and how they behave in Parliament. Maharaj said religious teaching is an integral part of all denominational schools, but he questioned to what degree is religious education taught in government schools. Pleasant Ninth Shell Valley, Real News says Keith Rowley is the greatest prime minister ever. Bold assertion there. Bold assertion. Positive Radiation says he threw it right back. Jumoke says, what do you think about the brothers? Not the situation, but the brothers themselves, or the Tates, or the brothers themselves. I spoke about them a while back, probably a month or so back, when a couple months back, when the situation was a bit more fresh. And what I think about the brothers themselves is their online personalities, as most online personalities are. They make content. Now, their content. What do I think about their content in terms of the value of it? I think, as with many things, there is value to it. I think they exaggerate for their online audience. I think when you look at clips of what they say, you don't get the full intention of what they're talking about also, but that's about it. They're going against the modern green. That's the main thing now. They're going against the modern green, and because of that, you're bound to get some slander. Who stopped prayer in schools? Positive Radiation, you jumping ahead. We're getting there because someone else responded and they spoke about that too. Additionally, Maharaj said religious institutions are not sufficiently supported with funding. He said he had applied for funding through the Ministry of Culture to host Diwali and Pagwa activities and had received not one black cent. But yet you have $147 million for Carnival. So you are promoting wine and jam and alcohol. Churches and religious bodies have gone out of their way to help this country and continue with it. But they need a scapegoat, and as far as I am concerned, the religion is the scapegoat. You are making the religious board and religious schools and churches the scapegoats for what is taking place in this country. And I want the leaders and the politicians to look in the mirror. They must do better for our children. And here's the thing, I tend to agree with him because OBMJ, if you want to join the live OBMJ, you'd have to join over on TikTok. My apologies, you can't join over on Instagram for now. We're doing that join over on TikTok. But yes, I kind of agree with him because for the most part, the religious bodies kind of have remained the religious bodies. By and large, they have progressed on in time with different changes with modernity, but by and large, the religious bodies are by and large the religious bodies. You see, there has always been a friction between religion and the state, because if you're subscribed to a religion, you believe that you are under the power of a higher power. You are not the higher power. Your say isn't the final say. No one else's say is the final say. The final say belongs to a higher power that is outside of this entire system. That makes me a hard person. Now, people talk about religion being the opiate of the masses, and it makes people easy to rule. So the religions are about control. But the strange thing is, anytime you have states trying to exert more control, what they do is inevitably they squeeze out religions. Ben says religious teaching is vital, but not when given false doctrine. Positive Radiation says when they marched against the buggery law, the country gave them blues. Woo, you went down the line there, bro. But yeah, People talk about religion being good for control, but strange enough, when a state is attempting to exert more control over the people, one of the things they always do is fight religion. Because here's the problem: states and religion kinda are in an adversarial role. When you think about it, you see, if someone believes in a religion, in a God, you believe that the solution to your problems exists outside of the system in a higher power. I am not going to believe that some human is going to solve my problem. Only God can. While the state, if the state wants to exert more control over people, they have to get more people to believe more and more that the solutions to humanity's problems are state needed. 70% of Scandinavia report as non-religious. Solve your problems, don't pray for them to go away. Yes, 70% of Scandinavia is non-religious now. Scandinavia it wasn't built as a non-religious country. Now, there have been non-religious countries that were built with no religion. The Soviet Union, Maoist China. North Korea was built with a state religion. The state is the God. So the thing is, non-religious, I feel like we're all religious. I think humans, even when they call themselves non-religious, they have a religious path because they believe in a moral standard. Karim Rockwell says, so like the Commissioner confused, she asking God for help. Shell Valley says, we pray for wisdom to deal with the issues. Yeah. Everyone, I believe, is religious to some extent. Now, to some extent is to some extent. I think the reason I say that is because everyone has a moral code. And I think what a religion attempts to do is it attempts to make concrete a moral code. Where do you get your moral code from? And you could say that we have the intellect inbuilt in us, and humans naturally have morality in them. And okay, you could say that, but then you'd have to contend with the reality that everyone doesn't deem the same thing to be moral. So, okay, if you're saying we have an inbuilt moral code, well, then the question would be, how do we get a common moral code? A moral code common among everyone else? And that has always been the value of religion. It gives people a common moral code. Without that common moral code, you have some difficulty. Now, there are many nations who created their common moral code out of their religion, sometimes 100 years ago, and now as time proceeded and progressed, they have moved away from the religious mores that their moral code was based on. And you could say they're non-religious now in 2023, but their laws, the statutes, their norms, the country's culture was not built on that. The country is in plucked flower mode. I mean, if you pull a flower out of the ground, out away from its root, it would live for some time. Even if you put it in water, it would live for longer. But it's no longer what you may fully consider a living flower. So you may ask questions of, is it possible that when we see religion fading, we see morality fading in some places? And that's what the Prime Minister is suggesting. Now, what the religious leaders are suggesting here, or at least the religious leader in charge of the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, he is saying that the fault of religion subsiding, or the lack of impact you see of religion in this society, isn't due to the religious bodies, but due to the state and what the state is doing. If we have two contending and contrasting views of where we get morality from here, we could get it from the state and pursue it through the state, or we could get it from the religious bodies and pursue it through the religious bodies. In a country like Trinidad and Tobago, which one of those avenues do you think is lacking more? Or let's put it this way, which one of those avenues do you think has deteriorated more? So even if you say that you don't believe X religion is correct, is that X religion the same religion it has always been? So whatever the negative effect of X religion was 60 years ago, it's supposed to be the same thing now. It's doing the same thing. Is something changing now, and is it the religious aspect changing, or is it the state side changing? On that, Spiritual Baptist Archbishop scoffs at PM's concerns. Governments take religion out of schools. Spiritual Shouter Baptist Archbishop Barbara Gray Burke, is confused by the Prime Minister's recent comments that children's behavior in this country is rapidly deteriorating as religion is no longer a core part of the education system compared to the old-time days. She said it is the PNM that took religious knowledge out of schools. Positive Radiation says laws should be based on morals. Obviously, Positive Radiation. Obviously, laws should be based on morals. What else would they be based on? Moral, and if anyone is confused about what morals mean, what morality means, all that has to do is with your understanding and view of what is right and what is wrong. Do you think there are some things that are right? Do you think there are some things that are wrong? I think in order for you to establish laws, you must believe that some things are right and some things are wrong. That's the only way you could establish laws in the first place. So obviously laws must be based on morality. Now, I think there are some people who fool themselves, hoodwink themselves to somehow believe that laws are based on some kind of superior logical thinking. But the logical thinking is based on a moral base. At the ground level, it's based on a moral view. What is the logical reason for murder being wrong? I could assure you, anyone that could come up here and give me a logical argument for murder being illegal, I could give you a logical argument for murder being legal. The arguments about murder being illegal, for the most part, is a moral argument. Most laws are, that's just the nature of it. So if you move away from the moral moorings of your laws, good luck. Good luck. I think the United States is a prime example of that. The United States laws were based heavily on Judeo-Christian values. They were founded pretty heavily by believers in higher powers, believers in God, believers in the Christian God too. And a lot of their laws, a lot of the common customs in the United States, a lot of their constitution and all of that was shaped around that belief. And now we're seeing in the United States a movement away from that belief. And there's where you're having so much conflict over there. You're having people attempting to move away from the original morals that set their constitution. And if you move away from those morals, you start asking yourselves questions like, are our laws even sensible for what we believe now? If I no longer hold those morals I once held, then maybe I should change the laws I once chose. And that's the problem they're running up into. That's a serious problem. And the issue with morality, and religion is when you think of morality as an anchor. I anchor myself in this religious view, in this moral view, in this morality view, where I anchor myself here. I believe this is right, this is wrong. I know my orientation of the world. On this side, we have all the things that we select as being wrong. On this side, we have all the things that we select as being right. I am anchored to this position. When you remove that, you lift up your anchor. What you're doing now is think of yourself in the open ocean. I don't know how many of you have ever traveled in the open ocean or seen how the open ocean looks. Think of a ship raising up its anchor in the open ocean and then trying to chart a course. You then have to decide from on that ship which way now is the moral way. Now you have to make up on your own a new morality. And then is the problem the West is stumbling upon, with the US being at the head of that charge. We're attempting to recreate morality, and we're recognizing it's not exactly as easy as some people would have you believe. Okay, so there's no abstinence. There's no, we don't have to wait for marriage for sex. What's this kind of old time thinking? No, none of that. Sex is free. You have full autonomy of your body. You could do what you want with your body. You have that freedom and that liberty. These archaic religious rules and laws are just there to hold you back and inhibit you from enjoying your bodily freedom. Okay, if you say so. Now that you have removed those moral bounds from sex, now you have to recreate those moral bounds on sex. And you have questions about something as simple as consent, because people are recognizing, wait, I could give consent yesterday and really, really regret today. And I can't take back consent. For some strange reason, this whole sexuality thing doesn't seem as simple as a handshake. If I shake someone's hand, I don't generally regret shaking their hands like that. And now you're stumbling upon new problems. And okay, all sex is free. Where are the bounds of it? We have the L, okay, that's free. We have the G, okay, that's great. We have the B, fine. T, the T kind of contradicts with the L and the G and the B, you know. But okay, if you see Q, what is Q? Q is all? Okay, all right. 2, a number. What is a number doing in there? A, plus. Where is it going to end? Because what you're doing now is you have to recreate the morality that you once had. We once had the anchor down in a certain spot. We pulled up the anchor. So now everyone on the ship here is arguing and bickering among ourselves. Where are we going to put this anchor down now? Where is the new anchoring position we're going to have? All right, but to go back to the Trinidad issue at hand, the Archbishop of the Spiritual Baptist, the Spiritual Shouter Baptist Archbishop, was pointing out that it was the government that removed the religious teachings from inside of schools anyway. The school system actively fueling crime, but nobody having that discussion. Well, I mean, that's kind of literally the discussion we're having now. You know, a lot of us modern social media folks have quite a few cliches that we're using. Nobody ready for that discussion while literally having the discussion. So, seems like we're ready now. All right. On Tuesday at the handing over, right, we know that. Asked about this on Thursday, Grayburg said, but it's that government that take religious knowledge out of schools. So who he going to blame? She said there are now standardized short prayers at schools, and that is not enough prayer. We free to come up tonight? Yes, Positive Radiation, you are free to come up. Karim Rockwell says, do you think it's a generational problem, like the boomers around the world not able with the world? No, I don't think it's a generational problem in that sense. I think it was decisions that were made. Certain generations made certain decisions. You move away the religious moorings that you once had, and now you have to redevise where to put it down. It's not, I don't think it's like per se a generational thing. It's just, I guess it's which generation did the moving. But it's affecting every generation as it proceeds. When you finish with the article, I'll come up. Great. She said religious literature and scriptures need to be taught at schools of their faith. You take the Holy Spirit, the Word of God, out of the curriculum. You say praise to the Almighty. That short prayer? No. That's not enough. You have to let them know that Jesus is the rock in the weary land and shelter in the time of storm. Despite the government giving them not one red cent this year, she said members of her faith supported themselves and persevered. She said she believes the government hates Spiritual Shouter Baptists, adding that she has written to them many times and they have not responded. Hey, I forgot how much prayers are said in Catholic schools. Yeah, bro. And the thing is, I kind of agree with the Baptist Archbishop there. I agree with the Archbishop there. If Dr. Rowley is saying that what is needed is more prayer and more work by the religious bodies, then how does that sit with the government attempting to secularize everything in the education system? Those two don't actually go together. You see, what happens in Trinidad and Tobago very often, and this is a problem I have in Trinidad long time, lots of what we do at the state level is just copycat. If we see the United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom remove God from their syllabus in their education system, well, then we're removing God from our syllabus too. And that doesn't make sense. If you're removing God from your syllabus, then let it be something that's a decision made by your society for your society. How the Prime Minister of our society could be saying that our society needs more God, needs more religious activity in there. Blessed night, Stephen Ramuta, needs more religious activity in the education system, but at the same time making decisions to remove religious education from the education system. Those two things don't go together. And I agree with the Baptist leader here. Those two things, they're not going together. Now, Plenty Letter Name guy said the concept of concentrating all the underperforming schools for whatever reason into bad schools. I think he does not like that either. The school system actively fueling crime, and I think that's what you're talking about by concentrating the bad students into one school. They're fueling crime. Here's the issue with that Plenty Letters guy. What are you going to do? What's the better decision? What's the better decision there? I'll get to what you're saying there, Benz, but with Plenty Letters guy, what's the better decision? Do you think that if you have underperforming students, the best solution is to mix them in with the best performing students and throw them all into the same class? What do you think is going to happen if that's what you do? Like, think about it. If you have a Porsche and a Maserati, and then you have an older vehicle, you have a B12, a B13, and a couple B13s, well, would it make more sense if you're putting them together that you allow the faster cars to drive along with the faster cars and the slower cars to drive along with the slower cars? If you put them all mixed together in the same group, you're either going to strain the slower cars, trying to pull them faster than they're capable of going, or you're going to slow down the faster cars, making them go slower than they were initially capable of going. I don't see how it benefits either group to fully mix them in. Ben says, but I thought it starts from home. Why blame it on schools? I agree. It does start from home. I agree. You're right. It does start from home. However, we exist in a system where the public school has children for 8 hours plus per day. It's not ideal. I would wish that every parent in Trinidad and Tobago parents their child to the perfect level, and therefore we have no need to put pressure on the schools for the schools to have to do anything to fix these children. But we understand the reality that there are a large number of parents who literally just give their children over to the school. And we could say that, yes, it was their duty to mind that child, so we're not taking care of that. We don't have to worry what the schools will do. But then in the end, who pays the consequence for that? All of us living in this society together. If we have a society that's failing large groups of people because their parents failed them, and we don't have anything to pick up the slack, then we're all going to face the consequence of that eventually. That's what we're lamenting about right now. The crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago is ridiculous. I saw, perusing the news, I saw they robbed a garbage truck. Let me see if I could find that story. They robbed a garbage truck. Like, bro. Garbage men robbed in Piaco. 2 garbage collectors on duty collecting refuse in Piaco were robbed by gunmen of their cash and valuables on Wednesday morning. Puran Mathura of Presal Village, Kuva, and Amarnath Ganga Charan of Soledad Road, Claxtonby, were held up around 6:45 a.m. on March 29th as they worked along 4th Avenue, Arapun. The victims were reportedly collecting garbage when they saw 2 men approaching. One of the men pulled out a gun and announced a robbery as the second man searched the truck's cab. The suspects later fled the scene on foot in different directions. Mathura was robbed of $180, as well as his national ID card and bank cards, while Gangachan was robbed of his Samsung S20 cell phone. Plenty Letters says that's just a problem we need to solve for the students that feel held behind by their class should have accelerated programs available to them like in Germany, the US, and Canada. So then you're talking about separating them, Plenty Letters. If the students that are feeling like they're going too slow could have accelerated programs. And if you take all of those students and put them in an accelerated program together, wouldn't you call that accelerated program a school? Probably an accelerated program school. So if you want to view the Trinidad system, you could view it as the prestige schools are accelerated program schools. At least that's the intent. Now, I'm not negating there is classism and all of that inside there, but I'm just saying that the idea somehow that we do away with it all and we don't separate people. We don't want people to feel bad. That's not going to work. That's not how life works. Plenty Letters says having young impressionable students mixed in with misbehaviors is never a good idea. So then what's the point you're making, Plenty Letters? You're sounding now like you're saying you believe they should be separated. And I believe that too. I believe students who are misbehaving should be separated. Students who are not performing should be separated. The problem is you shouldn't separate them and just leave them to languish in obscurity. You separate them and assign specialized teachers to try and help them. That's what I believe. But I don't believe that you mix everyone together. I don't think you get a better result doing that at all. What happens to the preschool system? We can't start the interventions there. Well, here's part of the issue with that. When they got, and again, this is the same problem that I was having where our government seems like they tend to just copycat things from foreign places oftentimes. When our government tried to regularize the early childhood centers where they wanted people to register and the government opened their own centers, the government's recommended teaching for those early childhood centers was hardly any teaching. Now, I understood what they were attempting to say from the macro perspective that those children, what you do with those children is games. Children learn by play, and the intent is that you don't force them into work. They're supposed to be playing. But bear in mind, you could play while learning colors, while learning letters, while learning how to read, while learning how to write. All of those could still be games. The problem, I think, is that the modern ECCE centers are dog slow. They are slowing down the children, hoping to get them on some kind of nice streamline going through the entire system. I don't agree. You see, like, there are some people who have the idea somehow, I don't know where they got this insane thing from, that, you know, if a child learns too much, like, you know, that might strain their brain or something. No. No. From early, I agree, positive reduction. From early, we should be seeing that. It's learn through play is what they push. Yes, and you should learn through play. My problem is that they do more of the play than the learn. It's a skill. These teachers, as a teacher of an early childhood center, as a teacher of a toddler, or a young child, your aim isn't just to teach them games. You have to understand how to run the games in order to teach lessons through the games for the children. It's not just about the play. My brother in Switzerland is programming at 15. I'm not surprised by that at all. I'm not surprised. It depends on the preschool though. Yes, that's true. It does depend on the preschool. There are some preschools that push pretty fast. Like, if you have interest in your young child learning much faster in that early childhood time, us over here at Mindful Education, we offer preschool pods full-time from preschool also, if you are interested in that. And our students coming out of preschool always perform to the top of their primary school classes without fail, because if you understand how to lead a child in those games, children love learning. If a child hates learning, very likely a teacher went wrong at some point in time. because naturally children love getting new information, finding new things, figuring out new things. It's not something that foreign to a child. They enjoy doing it. So if you understand how to do it, you could pull a lot out of those youth in pretty short time, actually, too. But speaking about those modern schools and programming and all of that positive radiation, our opposition leader is promising that should her party come into power, that's exactly what we can expect. Yeah, positivity on the inside there. I'm reading something quickly here. Kamala promises modern schools if elected. Opposition leader Kamala Prasad Biswas has promised to build a modern secondary school for the spiritual Shouter Baptists once the United National Congress becomes the next government. The new spiritual Baptist Shouter High School will benefit from this revolution in education, as will all the secondary schools in our nation, she said. The greatest gift we can give the young ones in the Baptist community is that of a good education. That is the only way to continue the upliftment of the faith. Addressing Shouter Baptist, Prasad Biswas said the spiritual Shouter Baptist community had always inspired the UNC. She said among the party's accomplishments for the faith was the declaration of the spiritual Shouter Baptist Liberation Day as a public holiday in 1996, as well as construction and the opening of the St. Barbara's Spiritual Shouter Baptist Primary School and Shouter Baptist Early Childhood Center and Education Center, in Maloney. Now, she's promising that when they come back in, not only are they going to return the laptops, they're not only going to return the laptops, no, they're going to give tablets to all primary school students. The thing is, I like the idea of progress in education. I do think that the public education system is by and large obsolete and based on a formula that was made, and the formula wasn't ideal when it was made, but the formula was made for something 100 years ago. It's not suitable for what we have now, so I agree with changes, but tablets for all primary school students, I don't know if that's the kind of change that would see benefit for money. Yeah, positive. What are you saying there?
Couple things can we discuss a lot since. Crime situation and the school system. I think we need to start a little younger at the primary school phase. I think also we need to change the way we structure the secondary school system and even the primary school. So if from a young age you know where you want to have an idea, see the direction I want to head, push the students in that direction. So we'll find an easy.
Evening, Kuvon.
If at SE level you're already know, okay, I want to go into aviation. When you have the option now to study at let's say a secondary school that is geared towards aviation, all your mathematics sums are going to be geared towards aviation. The language you write is going to be geared towards aviation. So you find now at 15, 16, 17, you're already accustomed with the lingo in the field that you want to get interested in. You're very familiar with the things, how it's done. So you tend to see your schoolwork as being more applicable than being generic.
Very correct, positive. Very correct. As I was saying, the system we have is obsolete. The system aims to make a lot of cookie cutter industrial wage slaves. To put it bluntly, the public education system as structured by the Rockefellers when it was originated in the United States, as they took it from the Hungarians before them, the communist Hungarians before them, who came up with this public education system. They originated it. The nature of what it was made for. The communists, when the communists developed public education, it was to make the perfect citizen. Again, going back to the religion versus state. Communism, the state is basically the god. Their aim, they understood that if we cannot train the youth coming out, they aren't going to go along with what we want, what the state wants. So if we could train every young mind to go along with what the state wants, we can make the perfect citizen. So that's the communist belief. And you still hear people talking about that perfect citizen from education too. You have to dig a little deeper into some of those terms. When you say perfect citizen, what does that mean exactly? What does a perfect citizen do? And then on top of that, when the US took it, so the public education system as it's structured was shaped both by the left and the right. It was created by the communists, and as we have it, it was kind of shaped by the industrialists, the robber barons, those industrial robber barons of the change of the 20th century. When they went over to Europe, they loved that system. They brought it over to the United States, structured it in such a way to work along with the factories, with the bells, with the assembly, all of that. So it's supposed to work like that. It's supposed to create cookie cutter factory workers who can come out and work the assembly line. That's not the jobs available anymore. So what you're saying there, positive radiation, makes a lot of sense. And I've said that a long time now. And the way I phrase it is, I think it has to have a lot more apprenticeship style teaching, where you see, with apprenticeship, as you were talking about with aviation, if at 12 I am interested in mechanics, because it's an easy example to do, I could go to somewhere where I interact with real mechanics. I understand the terms, I understand the lingo, I understand the inner workings of this, instead of having to go through the cookie cutter system till I'm 18 and then go do some bachelor's degree that they offer me, and then maybe in my postgraduate I could specialize in mechanics. That doesn't really make sense. That, I don't think that would make the best mechanics. That's not how you get the best mechanics. I don't think that's even how you get the best doctors. Like, if someone was training for medicine from the age of 12, do you think they would be a better doctor?
Much better, because I have a longer time to gain my experience. Let me jump in and share another philosophy that I found was interesting. So, theater arts or the performing arts or music is usually seen as a bystanding by the side thing. Agricultural science as well. See, the same thing happening with electricals, metal work, woodwork in some secondary schools. Usually the quote-unquote bad boys or trouble students are sent to these programs or to these classes. You would realize that they are totally different students in some of these programs. So find all these quote-unquote trouble young men, put them in the metalwork areas, put them to do engineering, put them in agricultural spaces. They like vehicles, they like cars. So you would find out where they're more attentive because they see the need for it, they see how it's applicable. If you take some of these same trouble guys and you put them in art and teach them vehicular design, painting bodies on vehicles, you get totally different students, and they would not turn to crime as an option because they now see where they are valuable to society. And imagine doing it even younger. Because the guys come to the same cookie cutter system. When you see they go into the streams that they are comfortable, they become excellent citizens, excellent producers, they do excellent work. Some of them, even some of us who have degrees, we cannot make the kind of money they do and do the kind of work they do. Some of them, they cannot give you Pythagoras theorem on paper, but give them a tile and tell them tile the room, and you see them use the same philosophy.
Correct.
And you want to know how come this child can't pass an exam?
Correct. And in that sense, I think you see sometimes problems in our teaching too, because the cookie cutter system the teacher teaches one lesson. If I'm a teacher and I'm in front of a class of 40 students, for the 45 minutes my period is, or if it's a double period, that will be an hour and a half. For the hour and a half, I'm teaching the same lesson to everyone. Now, everyone doesn't understand everything the same way. So, an example I regularly use, I made a video about this, an example I regularly use, something that I notice. Regularly in my community, you see sometimes some parents talking about their child, especially the sons. My son, he can't learn and he not cut out for this schoolwork thing. And then you see the boy making things like kites. Some of those boys fabricating and welding their own drop low and stretch long bicycles and stuff like that. And believe it or not, you need to understand angles to make those things. So it's not that these boys are dumb or duncy or incapable of learning, but someone was incapable of allowing them to understand in a way that made sense to them. And as you're saying, maybe creating more of these opportunities for more various ways to understand knowledge, for more various ways to get through educating yourself. That would allow an avenue for that regularly as a teacher, because I am a teacher. I've seen this before in class. I don't teach in public school anymore, but I have taught there before, and this is something you see. You could watch and you see sometimes the clown in the class, the guy making trouble in the class. Sometimes it's not just because he's indisciplined. Sometimes it is because he's indisciplined, and you could teach him however you teach him, and he's going to be a bad person, and you have to live with that reality. But sometimes it's not just indiscipline. Sometimes it's a cover. It's a cover because he doesn't know anything going on. This boy was left out of the school system since standard 4. He doesn't understand long division. And you're out here trying to teach him sine and cosine and trigonometry. He is lost. And instead of embarrass himself and show how lost he is, so I'm going to make everyone laugh, and I'm going to make sure I insult all the smartest children in the class. You see, the smartest children in the class, I have to make sure I insult them because I don't want to feel like I'm lesser than them. Reasons like that are reasons why streamlining the system actually makes sense. You know, you don't want everybody in the same group. You don't want. If you're a slow runner, you don't want to have to train for athletics. You don't want to be doing PE with Asafa Powell and Usain Bolt and them guys. You're going to always feel like you're failing. A big part of encouraging people to make progress is taking massive steps, but small enough that they can actually take them, that they will actually take them. If a step seems like it's too big to surmount, most people wouldn't take it. So you shrink the size of the step till they're able to take those steps. It's small steps sometimes. And if you need to carry someone into a school where this school has 1 million small steps, while this school has 5 massive steps. For the guys who like jumping and climbing up steps, you go to the 5 massive steps. For some people who have to take it a little slower, well, we'll go through the 1 million smaller steps. But ultimately, the perfection of that is parenting, as someone noted already. For a parent to look, as a parent, by the time your child reaches schooling age, you're supposed to understand how your child learns. You're supposed to pay attention to your child, pay attention to what they respond to, what they close down to, what makes them shut down, what makes them open up. You're supposed to understand your child like that. You're supposed to, it's nearly like when you're going to the parents' day to meet the teacher, the teacher shouldn't be informing you of the child. You should be informing the teacher about your child and how to get through to your child. Ariel says, as we brethren say, poverty doesn't breed violence, exclusion does. That's kind of true actually, because it's not absolute poverty, but relative poverty. When you see somebody else richer than you. Yeah, positive. Are you saying something?
And you find they always mashing it up and trying to put it back together. It's not the fact that you spend the money and you work hard for it. The next year you're going to buy, don't buy an assemble car. I have vehicle that is in part with a screwdriver and give them the challenge to assemble it. You realize your child is always talkative. Put them in environments where they can be creative. All my reports have always said he speaks too much. Likes to talk, always involved in politics. Always has something to say concerning the news. But for today, that has been one of my strong areas and one of my strong points. And sometimes people would target you for your strong areas. Because I always had a strong voice from very, very young. And people would pick on me for that. So sometimes as parents, you have to be able to gauge your children and push them in the right direction. My next cousin and I, we were born in the same year. She's January, I am me. She's an athlete for today. She's out on a scholarship. And even completing one scholarship, got a job to be the assistant coach of a university in the States. But many times my mother would compare both of us together. But we go two totally different directions. So sometimes comparing and comparison as well could be very demotivating for some children.
It could be a comparison, you see. And this is the problem with our education system as I see it. It's not the stratification of children. It's not separating children into different streams. It's not that some people are faster than some. That's reality. Some people are faster than some. Some people are slower than some people. Some people could jump higher than some. Some people's brain works faster than some other people's brain. That's reality. There's nothing we could do about that. The problem comes when comparisons enter. So why you could not, and why you could not do like, and watch how she, and watch how he, and why you didn't. I remember a lesson my parents taught me long ago in schooling. They always said that they don't pay attention to the rank. Whether I came first, second, or third is not the main point to them. You could come first every time. They're looking at your grade. So I would come first this year and come first in the next term. And if my mark went from 98 and it dropped to 92 or 90, you're still first, but they want to know, why did your mark drop? Because it's not about the comparison. If you're comparing yourself to someone, you're comparing yourself to yourself. That's what I was talking about with the baby steps. If it takes you a million baby steps, but each step is a step forward or a step up, that is the point. RL says, let's say my child is discovered to be gifted or a genius. Is there a special school here for that? I don't think there is, as it were, a specific special school like positive that we don't go there. I don't think there's a specific special school like that. What you may have to do is seek out private tuition, private tutors. And if you'd like that, contact Mindful Education. We have those ranging for nearly any specific need in the education field. Can contact us. Private tutors anywhere in the island. We don't have any private tutors going to Tobago for any of the Tobagonians. We may work on that soon. So, good night, Comanche 117. Good night.
Nathan, the next point, as you share that, is something interesting came to mind. And I will share it because I've shared it with several Tobago officials. Why not streamline some of these programs to the need of the community? Because if you have Castor and Space, which major in marine operations, why not contact MTI and probably Garmin, who does GPS and tracking and those type of things, and you have an outpost, one based in Castor, the other based in Charlottesville. Because these are what the young men in these areas usually go for. They're into fishing, they're into boat repairs. So in some of these at-risk communities, you put programs there that usually stimulate the minds of these young men. Because a drug dealer is an excellent businessman. Allow me to be devil's advocate here in a sense. And for you to manage a group of men to commit criminal activities, you could manage the same group of men in a positive direction.
You know,
look at like sport, for example.
I like how you say that, mute your mic and dive out. They're positive. I like how you drop your tank along and dive out. All right. As you say that, do you know the cartels in Mexico at one point in time were smuggling avocados because the prices went to that level where it was profitable for them? Listen, that's why I talk about legalizing drugs and stuff like that. And many people talk about legalizing drugs for that issue, for that reason. The drug dealers, it's not like they are addicted to selling cocaine and marijuana. They would sell anything that was making them the money. It's just that's the quick money for them. So you're right, it is about the business. And what you're saying there sounds so true and pertinent to me. It's like, if you're looking at a community, and Tobago would be a very nice case for things like that. If you're looking at a fishing community, where if you go into the community and you do your research, you find out that a large amount, 50% of the students at the secondary school level, 50% of the male students drop out before Form 3 to go and join a fishing crew anyway. You find that out. Wouldn't it then make sense, maybe you provide an alternative from that school system where you're teaching them the cookie cutter school skills that they obviously are not going for, and you actually allow for education in fishery? You see, some people, I think, have the wrong idea of education, of what education is. Education is just formal learning. formal learning, and you can formally learn anything.
The basic requirement of 5, 6 subjects need to be removed in some of these programs.
True.
That's the next step that we need to do. Remove some of these types of requirements. You're interested in fishing? All you have to do is once they're available, you come to us in a amount of programs, we give you the skills and you go out and you work. So it's not like you have to have maths and English to enter some of these programs. You need to change, move away from that as well.
I agree. I totally agree. And the strange thing is, if you look at some of the higher level jobs, they are more and more ignoring some of those qualifications, you know. More and more of some of those higher level jobs, you go and apply for a higher level job, they aren't asking you about your CXC grades. They don't care. A simple IQ intelligence test can be done. Not necessarily IQ test like that, but just a proficiency test, a proficiency test in the area of study. I don't come and I ask you how to long divide two numbers. No, I come and I give you a practical problem to solve. I'm testing to see your problem solving skills. I'm testing to see your ability to figure out something. So, like for some of these, the example I was talking about with some of the young men in the neighborhood, I may go and ask them, what do all the angles, or what do all the internal angles of a circle make up? And they have no idea about that 360 degrees. But if they're making a kite, they're making a 360 degree circle with all of the internal angles they're making, and they understand that. They understand that this angle, the what's that principle? The opposing angles must be complementary or something to that effect. They understand that latently. So if there's something that I could do to evaluate that ability without necessarily having to test their testing ability. As I was saying in a previous night, I'm not saying that testing is valueless. I believe there is a reason for testing. There are some jobs where a written test showing how well you could perform on a written test would make sense. There are some jobs where that would make sense, while there are some where it's unnecessary. And all I'm saying is, in the jobs where it's unnecessary, make it unnecessary. Critical thinking skills, yeah, RL. And I remember reading an article out of Jamaica that was last year, where several of their high-level employers, several of their corporations and businesses were lamenting, saying that the graduates they're getting out of UE are not the quality required. They were lamenting the graduates were not critical thinkers. They didn't know how to do... Let me see, I'm trying to see if I could find that article. They didn't know how to do the skills necessary to actually process the thinking out of it. And here's the thing. I've seen some people say this point, and I may actually agree. As I expand even more in business, some people are saying, no, if you're hiring someone and you have the option to hire someone who followed the green after A-level, just went and did bachelor's in management, versus someone who, after CXC, decided this wasn't for me. They went out and got 2 years job experience, then got 2 certificates of their own, went out and did some online courses, went and figured out what they'd enjoy doing, and then both of them, you have them both at 25 years old looking to hire one of them. I could tell you generally, if you're an employer, more and more employers these days are looking for the other guy. Positive, you're seeing something there?
What I was also thinking as you were going down that direction, I think we fool a lot of our students into thinking you must have a degree to be valuable, you must have a degree to qualify for a job for some form of employment, and if you don't have the degree, you are nothing. And I think that is a philosophy that we need to change as well going forward. I think we need to make business subjects mandatory at all levels. Make it compulsory so you have that basic business skill. Also, we need to realize that education is a business too. Universities is a business. So they don't necessarily care about the quality that they churn out on a regular basis. Once we can churn out large numbers, once we have large intakes, we are good. Once gate can pay, we see what nobody with the same gate fees as you. So if you can have 1 million students to come through the program, they pass ask me this 50% we do businesses, they get jobs after we do businesses that are relevant for the industry. All we care about is they come through our system, they pay their fees, and they go out. Because some of these lecturers have never worked in the industry. Some of them got their degrees, got their masters, got their grad, got their PhD, and went straight back into teaching and into lecturing. Some of them really don't have that first-hand experience. And when you have students who may have a little bit of exposure, or your father might be working in the industry, or your uncle working in it in the US or wherever, so you're cross-referencing them. When you pose questions to some of these lecturers, they see you as a challenge. Simply because you had a little bit of hands-on.
Correct. You're correct. Very correct in that. The article coming out here, Nation News, students not ready for workplace. This article, this version is since 2014 these complaints were being made. Caribbean employers are complaining that far too many University of the West Indies graduates are leaving the classroom not entirely ready for the workplace, and some of the students themselves are joining the chorus, asserting that the classroom training was excellent but the practical aspects of their preparation for the job market are insufficient. And I think some of this is all natural progression. It's a natural progression of the coddling of the children, where school is now an advanced daycare, and you're trying to, all pet the children. And in many universities, the children have become the top customers. So you're always trying to pander to what the children and you shouldn't even be calling them children in university anymore anyway, but you're always trying to pander to what they want and make it more soft and make it nicer and make it nicer and make it nicer. And that's not helping with educating people. That's not helping with the education. I can't hear Stefali says, the video paused for a moment. Entire system crash starting from government, then some parents before I look at school. With my current job, I started as an intern to get the specific training needed. Correct.
You see what, Diamond, a lot of jobs now are not offering that. A lot of jobs now you go in as an intern, you spend your 3 months or your 2 years, and they lay you off immediately. So you will work like a normal employee, get into the system, and they lay you off as soon as your internship ends, and they are not paying you. And I'm speaking from experience, one. Two, what I think we also having a problem with in terms of the same going through the system and coming out like that is when you do go into the system. Remember, if I'm leaving school, I leave school with the up-to-date knowledge on it. So like in my case with aviation, one of my top areas was air regs or air regulations. So when I leave the university and I go into the actual practical industry now, and I see flaws or I see errors being made to the regulations, and I indicate that to my superiors, I am now seen as a threat. I was told as an interview you are overqualified for the position. And if we put you there, in some cases we fearful.
Here's the thing with some of that positive. You're so right. But coming from, I've worked in construction for a long time. Since my preteen years, I've been in and around construction, especially residential construction. If you went to a formal institute and learned about construction and engineering and building and all of that, and then you came to the Trinidad residential market and attempted to execute what you learned in school in the Trinidad market, you will bust. You will never get a job. No residential builder, no residential customer in Trinidad is going to pay for someone to do the extent that the schooling would tell you is the way for you to do it. So, in reality, if you went to school for 5 years to learn construction, and then after that 5 years you came out, now you would have to unlearn some of what you learned to relearn that the real world doesn't work that way. I am sure lots of safety officers out there, after they learn all of the safety stuff in school, go out to the site and they recognize this cannot function. Listen, there are people right now building houses out there on 3 levels of 8 scaffolding without anything tying them, with one little tiny piece of plank, with no harness. They're very unsafe up there. But if you have to pay the money to keep them safe, then you aren't going to build your upstairs house. You aren't going to get that dream home. You're going to get a 2-room flat. RL safety officer here, lol. I like how you didn't implicate yourself. You just say safety officer here, lol. I like that. I like that. Don't implicate yourself. Say no. Don't implicate yourself like that. Don't go down like that.
Nathan,
Yeah.
your personal definition of education.
I would say the definition of education is formal learning, like learning with structure, and there's an aspect of teaching too, teaching and instructing. So it's receiving knowledge through a formal manner from receiving instruction through a formal manner. That's how I put it. Formal instruction, formal learning. So you could learn, but you could learn informally. And I think there's value to learning informally, but you will not be educated if you don't have some structure to how you learn. In order to be educated, you have to have some structure to what you learn, because there are an infinite number of things in the universe you could learn about. If you just go learning about these infinite things from random sections of all over, your knowledge might be expansive, but there's no value to it really. It's not coherent. So in order to have that coherent education, you need to be educated. But formal learning doesn't have to take place in old school institutions. You could be formally instructed by your mother. So you could be educated outside of formal institutions, but that's my definition of education there. Sad news for all the unemployed HSE workers now. RL says the government doesn't enforce any OSHA laws because they cannot. The reality, and that's my problem. It's so many. This is what the fourth time I made this complaint since I started this live. A lot of what we do here in Trinidad and Tobago is copy and paste. I rate Jamaica for throwing out their car seat laws for children. Now you could say that sounds insane. The babies are unsafe in the cars. That's not what it's about. Laws have to make sense for the society that they are being made for. You cannot have a law in Trinidad saying that every house should be air conditioned per se, because everyone doesn't have the resources to air condition all of their houses. That's, for example, my problem with the inspection law on the vehicles. It's an elitist law that cuts off a certain section of society. And the OSHA laws do something similar. Yes, there are some things that are more dangerous, but some people need to do that to live. If you make it illegal to do dangerous things to make a living, many people cannot make a living. That's just the reality. There are some straighteners and painters, they cannot afford to buy the extractor fan, they cannot afford to buy the respirator. They know that their lung is getting a pounding, but they have no choice. They have 4 children that need food and need to go to school. So they're doing what they must do. You make a law that no, they must have all of those stipulations. Now, there's nothing he can do. That straightening and painting skill just has to go to sleep. He has to go and travel and go out and find a work in some store somewhere that's going to pay him quarter of what he had. You have to balance those things at the same time too. You have to balance those things. We all have to do that. But drive crazy in Jamaica, really no car seat. Yikes. The thing is, Jamaican society, I understood it when I read it. Jamaican society is not at that level yet. How are you going to have a car seat law when a lot of people still move around in taxis, as we do in Trinidad and Tobago, with the 5-seater taxis with regular sedans? Are you telling me if I have to travel with my infant, I have to now carry a car seat, and every time I walk into a taxi, I have to buckle in my car seat into the man's taxi? And then switch it to the next taxi? Really? That's the law? And if I do not do that, I would have to pay thousands of dollars in fines? Does that law make sense? Would that law make sense in the Jamaican society? For example, as I keep reiterating, this inspection law in Trinidad and Tobago does not make sense for the society it is being aimed at. It does not make sense. the road conditions we have are not at that kind of first world all inspected vehicles kind of level. If we lived in Germany and we were driving on the autobahn, by all means tell me my vehicle must be inspected. Don't tell me my vehicle must be inspected to drive through Boykato Road. Come on. It's ridiculous. Really and truly.
But Nathan,
yeah.
You don't find it interesting that this conversation started from addressing criminality and particularly at the school level. And we have made it full circle now to where the exact same laws and regulations could create even more criminality and even more problems. Because from what you telling me that the man who is trying to make a living and trying to make ends meet is now going to find himself in a position where he has to pay $1,000 fine or face imprisonment. When he gets into the system, he is going to meet the hardened criminals who is going to recruit him into the same system. Right. And he becomes even more of a harder criminal. Because my view is we don't have a prison system. We have a criminal university. You go in for a small crime and you come out with a doctorate in criminology. That's the reality of the way. Because we have no conversation on restorative justice. Who employs these persons who come back out of the recovery criminal system? Our society labels them jail, but we're not giving them no way out. So how are we to really...
You see what you're saying there? It falls directly into some news that is still developing. You know who employs a lot of the jail buds and then when they come out of jail? Scrap iron.
Scrap iron.
And the scrap iron industry was shut down. And I remember making this comment when they shut down the industry. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they reopen it with rules and stipulations that basically cut out the smaller men from it. And that's kind of the direction it seems like it's heading in now. They said they passed the law. Since they did that, the head of the scrap iron industry has been begging to meet them. Listen, we're trying to reopen our industry. We're trying to do things the right way. You're not allowing this one to get a permit. This one requires a permit. And no one is getting it. They're not speaking to them. Can you tell me what you think would happen? As I've said since then. And we're seeing the effect right now. I would not doubt some of the heightened criminality we saw since the ending of last year into the beginning of this year might very well be some of those former scrap iron men. That's just the reality. Now, I'm not a believer that I always say this: poverty doesn't breed crime. Poor people aren't criminals. That's not how it works. Poor people aren't naturally dishonest. I don't think so. But if someone already went to prison in Trinidad, and as Positive Radiation says, a lot of the prisons are more of a criminal university system. It's not like they got restoration inside their rehabilitation, not like they were taught how to control their anger, how to not want to hate the world, not like they were given the father figure they missed, not like they were given trauma therapy inside there for the trauma they had as children. They had none of that. So they come out and they have lots to deal with. But maybe something clicked on the inside. They passed that 25-year-old age limit, and their brain slows down a bit, and they're trying to do things the right way. So they join the scrap industry. And they already have a child. From since they entered, they have a child, and they're on back payment for maintenance already, because they had that child from before. Now, scrap industry shut down. You already know the route of criminality because you were in jail with some of those criminals, and before you were in jail, you were in some criminality. You have a jail record. You have a criminal record. Few people else are going to hire you. What do you think a man like that goes to do? Yeah.
That is going to take, his testosterone is going to take precedence in that case.
It is. And you see, there's a side where you have to look at things realistically. Can you legitimately tell a man that you expect him to obey the laws so much till he starves? How many fathers who legitimately want to care for their children would obey the law until they and their children starve? I'm not saying that the only option is criminality and starving, obviously not, but that's what it seems like to someone already steeped in that life. And if you're trying to make decisions on a countrywide basis to help the country, then you have to have those things in mind. You don't want those people left out there. Just as you don't want the people who fail SCA to be left out, just as you don't want the people who fail CXC to be left out. It's not about necessarily caring for everyone like that. It's about understanding that left out people come and haunt us afterwards.
But then this would give rise to me for another question. How many of our parliamentarians who are the policymakers do not have degrees? How many of our parliamentarians are skilled personnel? How many of our parliamentarians probably are ex-cons? Would we elect ex-cons? Would we elect personnel who do not have that level of intellectual ability? Are we going to make our parliamentary, our legal system more inclusive from the basis from an educational standpoint? And this is one of the things that I'm very proud of this THA administration for. Because we have some secretaries and assistant secretaries who do not have degrees, who are skilled persons. They have certificates in plumbing, they have certificates in coaching, so they've not necessarily been through the formal system. And I was embarrassed when I heard somebody was saying, to be a secretary, you must have a degree. You already been cultured to form a particular pattern.
Yeah.
Are we as a society going to vote for diversity? If Wayne Chance, for example, was still alive today, would have we as a citizen feel comfortable electing him to our parliament? Would have we been comfortable as a country appointing him as our next president, knowing that he's been through the criminal system, come out reformed, and was working to change the system? Would have we felt comfortable putting him to the highest offices in our country, just to give that mindset to those who have been through that you could still make it?
You're so right there, positive. And over the last couple years, something, even though some I exist in the intellectual sphere, I despise it. Our countries, our politics was not supposed to be run by a technocracy, where you get the well-educated people, and the well-educated people hire the other well-educated people who would all make the best decisions for everyone in the country. That's not the intent of a representative democracy, of a representative Republican democracy. That's not the intent. The intent is that the people who make the decisions are representative of the people of the country. The idea that, and to be honest, PNM has more of this. PNM has more of this. If we're being honest, and I dislike it, I really dislike it. I dislike how it sounds. I dislike how it tastes. I dislike the feel of it in the country. Where the people who could make the best decision in any particular field are always the most educated people in that field. So what we do is we hire the most educated, who would then hire the most educated, who would then hire the most educated, and it becomes an oligarchy of highly educated people. You bring yourself full circle into an oligarchy. And what an oligarchy is, for those who may be wondering, an oligarchy is basically a country that is ruled by a powerful elite group. And that's what we are kind of creating all again. If the PNM has their way, that's what they would create. To be very honest with you, to be blatantly honest, the PNM would create an oligarchic technocracy. That's the PNM style of governance, where all of the master's degree people, they get pulled into the state companies, and all of the well-educated, well-connected people are put into governance. And you simpletons, don't worry, you all could come and be part of the Red Army and cheer for us in the crowd, but to really elevate to this place, maybe your child, if they go to school and they're educated to this level, maybe your child could come to here, but not you regular people. And you're right, positive relation. I dislike that. And that's not how our system is supposed to run. And I understand there are barriers to it, but I honestly tend to believe you hire a village parlor lady, a lady who's running a village parlor, to run some of these government ministries, and she would do it better. I honestly believe that.
I would go so far as to say I prefer the lady only that always has Chibu canceling in the shop to be my Minister of Finance.
Any day. Any day.
We're going to get more clarity. We're going to see more documents. Things is going to be done more sensible. Because she's going to see, it may pose its challenges because of the technology.
These tanties understand.
Hold on to those principles.
These tanties understand that what they use there, the principles. the tanty who have that village parlor, since you know yourself in the 90s, and your mother tell you when she was a child she used to go by that same parlor. Parlors don't stay open if they bussin'. Tanty know how to run her books, how to buy every week from the truck, how to take out some to give to her child to go to school, and then she supports some grandchildren. You see Tanty buy a new Elantra of it, and Tanty and she new Elantra in the tongue. I know a Tanty buy a Hilux from her parlor, and she wasn't doing anything extra than the parlor. It was legit parlor. She buy a Hilux off of the parlor. I like to see them to see things like that, and those people I think would manage so much better than some of these elite, well-educated politicians. And you were talking about the technology aspect there. The idea of our governance system isn't that the person in charge needs to understand necessarily all those things. The idea originally was that the people in charge, we believe they have the temperament, they have the moral fortitude, moral certitude that they will act in a certain way, and then they could hire people to assist them to do the things they cannot do. That's the general idea of it. You don't have to be able to do everything.
Majority of the electorate or the majority of persons who participate in the electoral process. Because we can speak all of this tonight, and the same person on the street who we are appealing to is going to say, see me, I can't fight up with that politics thing now with them parliamentarians. They just use language I can't understand, and it's all kind of funny, me even fighting up. And that is the audience that they would target with the big words and the fancy speech and those things, because they would get riled up by ridiculousness and not the critical down-to-earth conversations that they would need. And that's why the education system is structured like that, is to keep some of them trapped in the system. Because I always say if you have an educated population, you're going to have an educated vote.
Yes.
And education for me is not a formal system. Education to me is any amount of information that creates a change in thinking and a change in action. If you can't get the both of them, I think you're wasting time. So we can have educated persons, and if you're not seeing the difference and not acting on the information, I don't consider it to be educated, in my view. But going forward, we as a population have to begin to change the way we treat some of these things. Because somebody goes up and says, nah, he has no education, he ain't get no UV degree, I can't vote for him. That is the man you need to vote for. Because whenever you think of it, he's going to learn the system, he's going to figure out X, he's going to ask questions that you yourself would learn from.
Correct. And I think in most of our democratic systems, the job of that area that you're talking about there typically has always been the media, the journalists. And what we have ended up having in most places in the West is over the last 40 years, journalists moved away from those raggedy runts on the outside trying to get the latest scoop. They moved away from that to an elite educated class also. Journalists are all very wealthy people. They're all well connected. They go to the same dinners with the politicians. You know, they knock glasses. The politicians invite them to their functions, and they would feel offended if they are not invited to the official functions, and they have their official press credentials. You know, they're not about just digging up muck as the muckrakers might be. They're there to, you know, have an interaction, an intelligent conversation and interaction with the politicians, and that's not really your original job. Your original job was to make sense of what these people are doing to the layman. And hopefully what we are doing here, positive relation, hopefully some of what we are doing here, and that's kind of the intent. It changes the culture, it changes how people think, it changes how people see things. Because as it stands right now in Trinidad and Tobago, even if we have a different view on that, I'm not sure how easy it would be to get someone else in there. We have a political system that's pretty strongly cornered into a narrow outcome possibility. It's not like you have a large range of possibilities there. Like even in the US where there are primary elections, it's like they hold their internal elections right before their general elections. So if it was that in PNM there were internal elections right before the elections, and you could see that Faris would attempt to go in and pressure, and Rowley might attempt to go in and pressure, and then there might be a wild card who jumped out of nowhere and he's going in there to pressure to see if he could win to run for PNM. Those things actually make a little more stir in the system as it is right now in Trinidad and Tobago, where basically each party selects their representatives all on their own, and parties are private corporations. Never forget that. Parties are private companies for the most part. They select their representatives on their own, and then you get to go out and select out of the representatives that they choose. You don't really have much choice there. Ziza says politics in Trinidad is all about Indian versus Syrian, if you. Okay, so you are trying to see the ever famous critique that PNM is ruled by the Syrians, and I've heard it before. That's your view.
No, but listen, I remember too, the media is also a business. Everything is being done now for profit. So we need to also look at that, because I am of the view, I could be wrong. Persons in the live, you all could correct me. Persons on the YouTube, you could comment after. I'm going to make what could be considered a controversial statement. Somebody benefits from the proceeds of crime. When all these millions of dollars are seized, we don't know where it goes. Over the past years, I've always asked, over the past 20 years when you saw the spike in crime, how many new security firms were formed? How many new security firms have the license now to buy and to use and to train officers with firearms? How many CCTV companies came into play that install these CCTV cameras? Once CCTV cameras goes in, you must have internet connection at all possible times to have these things monitored and to be uploaded to the cloud and to those things. You always have to have a reliable electricity connection to keep these cameras up and running. So we could see where it's a whole industry. So if all of a sudden, let's say, the Baptist community or the interreligious community, we pray down the place and God says, you know what, no crime in Trinidad and Tobago for the next 2 years, it's going to have a serious economic impact. Because the easiest job to get employed now is to be a security guard somewhere about. You have persons with degrees now working as security guards.
Yes.
And then we also have security guards who cannot defend if they need to. When you look at some of them, you know they can't run behind no criminal. You know they can't make no sense. But they need the job because they have a family to feed. And when they go to purchase it, the same person who owns the supermarkets has shares in the CCTV company
and in the security company.
And he's an oligarchy basically.
Yes. Yes, it is. You're right. Crime makes a lot of money for a lot of people. I blame... Crime has a lot of blame to go all around the place. Obviously, the family is the starting point. A lot of times, the fathers in the home is the starting point. But the reality is, in a country, your culture, yes, you could talk about your culture and fatherlessness in terms of criminality. But in solving crime and stopping crime, that has to do with policing. And policing, to me, has... In Trinidad and Tobago, policing is not top scratch. And I would blame that on corruption, and I blame that corruption starting from the political class. You're worried about the violent crime in Trinidad and Tobago, blame the corruption. We just saw where a former finance minister and somebody else were found guilty. Well, not found guilty. They would determine that they have to pay Trinidad some money there. Because corruption is a widely known thing, and they still aren't paying the money yet. They're going to appeal that. Corruption in Trinidad... It's a known thing. If you must have a corrupt political class, you must have a corrupt police service to be able to allow that class to live. And if you have a corrupt police service, then you have violent crime. Right. So what happened to campaign financing laws? Very good question. All right, folks, I could feel the tiredness in my voice. Opportunity, social justice, fairness is all that is needed. We don't need social justice. Justice is justice. If you have to put a qualifier before justice, then very likely it's not justice. Social justice very often is social gerrymandering, where people attempt to put their fingers on the scale to determine the outcomes of social interactions. I don't want that at all. Opportunity, justice, and fairness. Totally agree. I agree. Opportunity, justice, and fairness. In order to get opportunity, we must have freedom. In order to get justice, we must have that lack of corruption in the police service. And All right, folks. It was nice. It was nice as usual. Nice for this Mindful Live, sitting here chatting with you folks over there in the Mindful world. A nice chill evening as usual. This has been the Mindful Live. If there are no further questions or comments, came in late. Yes, I saw that. So I saw when you popped in there. We do this every night, every weeknight, Ziza. Every weeknight we're here. So you can feel free to jump in on weeknights because we're here every weeknight. And I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which won't be tomorrow because tomorrow is Saturday. And as I said, it's weeknight. So I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be Monday evening around that 9:30 p.m. time. So I will see you guys then. I hope you enjoyed this bed tips. Ha! Drink water. Honestly, I don't have any bed tips. This just grows. And eventually I'll cut it and eventually will grow again. Honestly, I have no bed tips. So until the next Mindful Live, which will be Monday evening, 9:30. I hope you guys were educated, informed, or entertained. Stay safe, enjoy this weekend, and I hope all of you guys would be here, in the land of the living, to tune in again Monday evening. Until then, folks, peace out. Hold it down. Laters. Word.